In this video, we are going to talk about percents. So when we talk about the word percent, percent means for every 100. And we see percentages that can be written, well, we can see fractions, and fractions can be written as percentages. So we're thinking about per 100 or for every 100, which means division. So 1% would be 1 out of 100. 50% would be 5 out of 100, and 99% would be 99 out of 100. And since we have a fraction, then we could turn that into a decimal just by dividing that. So if we take on our calculator 1 divided by 100, we're going to get this 0.01 here. So that means that we could take a percent and we could write it as a fraction, or we could write it as a decimal. So if I want to write from a percent to a decimal, I'm going to move that decimal 2 places to the left. So let's look at a few examples. Let's say we have 24% and we want to write that as a decimal. We're going to move that decimal 2 places to the left. So that's going to be 0.24. And we're going to do the same thing here. The decimal is understood to be here. So we're going to move it to the left 2 times. So it's going to be 1.83. Okay, notice when I turn it into a decimal, I do not have the percent sign here because it is no longer a percent. So that's really important. We're going to move this 2 times. So that means we're going to have to put a 0 in here. So it's 0.065. And then we're going to move this 2 times. So it's going to be 0.009. So if we want to write a decimal as a percent, then we're going to move that decimal place 2 places to the right. So we're doing the opposite of what we did earlier. So if I want to move this 2 places to the right, that's going to be equal to 62%. If I write it as a percent, I have to put that percent sign there. I'll move this 2 places to the right. So that's 150%. Same thing here, 2 places to the right, 5.9%. And then 2 places to the right is 0.8%. So let's talk about how to write percents as fractions. So the easiest way to write a percent as a fraction is to think about it as the number over 100. 25% is 25 out of 100, and then we want to reduce that. 25 goes into 25 one time, 20 goes into 100 4 times. And we would do the same thing for all of these. We have 120%, so that's 120 out of 100. Both of those reduced by 10. Both of those reduced by 2. So that's equal to 6 over 5. We could do the same thing here. This would be 7.5 out of 100. So we could think about multiplying the top and bottom both by 10. And what that would do is it would move that decimal to the right. So this would be 75 over 1,000. And then we know 25 goes into both of those. 25 goes into 75 3 times. And 1,000 divided by 25 is 40. So there's my reduced form. And then let's look at that last one. We've got 33 and a third. So I'm going to think about 33 and a third as a improper fraction. So to turn this into an improper fraction, it's going to be 33 times 3 plus 1. So that's going to be 100 over 3. And I want to think about that over 100. So dividing by 100. And when we divide fractions, we keep, change, and flip. So you can see how those are going to cancel, and that's going to leave me with 1/3. So let's go the other way. Let's write a fraction as a percent. So the easiest way to write a fraction as a percent is to go ahead and divide that to get the decimal first. So we're going to have 3 divided by 4. I'm just going to type that in my calculator. I'm doing that off screen. That gives me 0.75. And then we're going to turn that back into a percent by moving that decimal 2 places to the right. So we're going to do the same thing here. 5 divided by 8 is 0.625. And then if I move that decimal 2 places to the right, I get 62.5%. That next one, I have 7 divided by 400 as a decimal. It's 0.0175. And we move that decimal 2 places to the right. We get 1.75%. And then when I type this in my calculator, this is really 1 plus 1/2, which is 1.5 as a decimal. And then we're going to move that decimal 2 places to the right to get 150%. So let's look at solving some word problems. A real estate broker receives a commission of 3% of the selling price of a house. What's the amount of the broker receives on sale of a $275,000 home? So they're going to receive 3% of 275,000. So that's what we're asking. What is 3% of 275,000? So the word what means we're going to use a variable. We're going to set up a little equation for this. We're going to call it x. Is means equals. And then we're always going to turn percentages into decimals. 3% is 0.03. Of means multiply. And then we've got that 275,000. What means the variable? I'm going to use x. Is means equals. And of means multiply. And what this is going to do is it's going to set up a little equation for us. Let me write multiply instead of x because it's not the same as the variable x. And then we're just going to solve the equation for x. So in this case, x is already by itself. I just need to multiply 0.03 times 275,000. And the commission on this house would be 8,250. Let's look at another problem. An investor received a payment of 480, which was 12% of the value of the investment. Find the value of the investment. So we could rephrase this as 480 is 12% of what? What number? So 480 is 12% of what number? That's asking the same thing. So 480 is means equals. 12% is 0.12. Of means multiply. And then what is the variable x? So there's my equation to solve. So now we're going to divide by the 0.12. So x is going to be 480 divided by 0.12, which is 4,000. So now we're going to start talking about things like percent increase and percent decrease. Percent increase is used to show how much a quantity has increased over its original value. And the federal debt is the amount the government owes after borrowing money it needs to pay for its expenses. It's considered a good measure of how much of the government spending is financed by debt as opposed to taxation. So let's look at an example. So we've got this picture here. We've got years, and then we've got the tax revenue. And then here are the projected amounts for 2024 and 2025. It looks like that's the same picture as that one. So let's use this picture to find the percent increase. in tax revenue from 2021 to 2024. We'll round to the nearest tenth of a percent. So percent increase has a formula with it. It is the amount of increase divided by the original amount. So the amount of increase, we're looking from 2021 to 2024. So the amount of increase, you can see that's increasing here. So we're going to take that 487 and subtract 405. The original amount would be the amount in that first year, 2021. So this is going to be 0.82 divided by 4.05. So I got 0.20469 and some change. We're going to move that decimal 2 places to the right because we want this written as a percentage. And then if I want to round to the nearest tenth, that's that first decimal place. So I'm going to keep that 2 right there since that next number is smaller than 5. So the percent increase in tax revenue from 21 to 2024 is approximately 20.2%. So decrease is going to work the same way. We're going to find that amount of decrease and we're going to divide by the original amount. The federal deficit is the amount by which government spending exceeds its income, which includes tax revenue, fees, and investment income. So let's look at a histogram here, and we've got examples of the deficit for various years, and this is in trillions of dollars. So let's come up with a problem to solve to use that. Let's say we want to find the amount, or let's find the percent decrease. From 2021 to 2022. So 2021 to 2022, there's a big decrease there. And so if you think about what was going on, COVID was going on during these years. So let's find that decrease. So it's going to be percent decrease is the amount of decrease divided by the original amount. So our amount of decrease would be 278 minus 1.4. And the original amount, we started in 2021, so that's your original 2.78. So I've got 2.78 minus 1.4 is 1.38. And we're going to divide that. And then that's going to give me 0.49640 and some change. Let's say we round to the nearest tenth like we did before. So we're going to underline that 6. And we're asking, once I turn this to a decimal, move it to 2 places to the right. Do I keep the 6 or do I move it up? Because that next number is a 4, I'm going to keep that 6. So the amount of decrease there was 49.6%. So let's look at another example. Cost of fertilizer, seed, pesticide, and rent to grow corn decreased from 310 per acre to 280 per acre over a 2-year period. We want to find the percent decrease in these costs over those 2 years. So our percent decrease is going to be equal to the amount of decrease divided by the original amount. So we had 310, we decreased to 280. Notice that top's always going to be a positive number, and we started out with 310. So that's going to be 30 over 310. And 30 divided by 310 is 0.09677 and some change. And let's say we want to round that percent to one decimal place again. So I'm going to turn it to a percent first, move it 2 places to the right. So I've got 9.677. And the question is, do I keep the 6 or do I move it up? And in this case, we're going to move it up because that next number is bigger than, is 5 or bigger. So our percent decrease there is about 9.7%.